This is the day which God has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Our first reading this morning is from Isaiah chapter 30, verses 19 through 21. O people in Zion, inhabitants of Jerusalem, you shall weep no more. He will surely be gracious to you at the sound of your cry. When he hears it, he will answer you. Though the Lord may give you the bread of adversity and the water of affliction, yet your teacher will not hide himself any longer, but your eyes shall see your teacher. And when you turn to the right or when you turn to the left, your eyes shall hear a word behind you saying, "This is the way, walk in it." Our second reading this morning is from the book Help, Thanks, Wow by Anne Lamont. We are too often distracted by the needs to burnish our surfaces, to look good so that other people won't know that we are screwed up messes. We, our mate, our kids, or our finances are. But if you gently help yourself back to the present moment, you see how life keeps stumbling along and how you may actually find your way through another ordinary or impossible day. Details are being revealed, and they will take you out of yourself, which is heaven, and you will have a story to tell, which is salvation, that again and again saves us, the way Jesus saves some people, or the way sobriety does. Stories to tell or hear, either way, it's medicine, the Word. So I say thanks, because Revelation has shown me things that are miserable that somehow I may get to sidestep, or that are miserable, but that a prayer and friends help me find a way through, or that are painful and beautiful in ways that make your heart ache, that draw you closer forever to the comrades who have walked with you. May these words add meaning to our lives today and this week.
And when you turn to the right, and when you turn to the left, your ears shall hear a word behind you saying, "This is the way. Walk in it." A few weeks ago, we talked about mountains a lot in worship, and we learned that there are a lot of hikers, a lot of mountain people in the room. I am one of those people. And maybe some of you have experienced this before. Anybody ever gotten lost while hiking on a mountain? Yeah, you can, it's okay. So one time, it was probably 5 or 6 years ago, two of my very good friends and I went on vacation together out to Acadia National Park. And one of my friends, like me, likes to hike, right? The other does not, right? She does not at all like to hike. But we spent the whole trip out there and the flight out to Boston and the drive up the coast convincing her that we would just go on one hike together. And we would find one that was pretty easy, right, that had a good payoff and everything. And so eventually, because she loves us, she agreed to go on this hike with us. We got lost. And ended up on the wrong trail. And for much of the trail that we were on, we could see the overlook that we were supposed to be going to. And we couldn't figure out how to get there. So we wandered a lot. The friend who hates hiking ended up spraining her ankle, climbing down a rocky it was terrible. We're going on vacation again this summer, and she has made us swear that she can sit behind and read a book and drink a cup of coffee while the other and I go hiking, which is totally fair. But I thought of this story as we are here this morning to celebrate our stewardship campaign this year, in this conversation about walking, this conversation about taking steps forward in our faith, and the next faithful step. And what does that phrase mean, right? What does that mean to say as a community and as individuals that we're going to explore and take that next faithful step, that next step on our journey as a church and as people of faith. So throughout stewardship season, we have asked representatives from each of the boards to come up and to speak about why they give, why they serve, and what next faithful step in their board that they are excited about. And so I only thought it was fair that I answer these same questions that I gave all of them, but I'm gonna take them out of order because I wanna start with that last question. What is our next faithful step? Now, this is a really hard question to be thinking about, and as I thought about it, especially this week, it became harder because I kept answering this question with a question. What does it mean as a community of faith to take our next faithful step in a world where values of fierce independence and personal achievement are held at the highest regard? Right? Values that constantly undermine our call as people of faith to care deeply about the well-being of all God's people. It got me asking questions like, what is the next faithful step in a world that is torn apart by war? What is the next faithful step in a world where homeless cancer patients are left to die on the street? What is the next faithful step in a world that we know is full of abundance, but also has people going hungry? What is the next faithful step on a journey that can be so completely overwhelming? I don't have all the answers, but I have some ideas. I think our first step, and this is for me as an individual, for us as a congregation, and for us as people of the world, is to listen, right? To stop and to practice and to actively listen. To listen to God in our prayers. To listen to our neighbors who aren't in the room. And to listen to one another. To listen deeply about what it is that those around us need in this world, because we can't take a step in serving each other if we don't know what that service is supposed to look like. And perhaps historically churches, the wider church, not this church in particular, but the wider church tends to skip right to the serving without the listening, right? We tend to assume we know what people need and what people want from us. And our next is to make room. I think our next step as a congregation is to make room. To make room in our own lives for worship, for prayer, to make space. We have really full lives. You all have very full lives. I don't know if you know this, but I've observed we all have very full lives, even those of you who are supposed to be retired. So how do we make room, make spaciousness in lives that are so often pulled into busyness? There is no shortage of opportunity in this world to fill our time. So how do we make room for worship? How do we make room for welcome in our lives, and as a congregation, I think especially? How do we make room not just in the seats and in the parking lot, but how do we make room in our community to say, you know, when we welcome members here, we often make promises to one another about allowing ourselves to be changed by people who join our congregation. How do we make room for that welcome to live into its full self? Make room for new ideas, make room for new personalities. How do we make room for welcome? And I think the most important one on this list is, how do we make room for experiment? I think as we look into the future of what church is and what our church is, are we willing to try new things? And more importantly, are we willing to fail at them? Over and over and over and over again. Right? Those of you who have worked closely with me know that I like to have ideas. Staff is like, yeah, too many ideas. And it's okay to try lots of ideas and let them fail. It's okay to try new things in our lives and let them. This is a hard lesson in my personal life because I really hate to fail. I really, 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 really hate to fail. But I love to try new things. So where in our next faithful step are we making room to experiment, to hear an idea and just say, let's try it? And if it works, that's really awesome. And if it doesn't, we'll think about what we learned in that moment. And that might also mean thinking about how we make room in our building and in our budgets and in our boards, right? And then we take a step. So we listen, we make room, and then we take a step. Not 12 steps, not 23 steps, a step. In our faith with God, in our relationships with neighbors, and in our community here together. Here's the good news, though. You're not going to get lost. You're not going to get lost. Labyrinths have been around the world for a really long time. So images like this date back some 4,000 years and can be found in archaeological sites. That's before and older than the stories of Abraham and Sarah. Right? There were images like these. Now, these often, when archaeologists find them, are pretty small etchings, right? Much like the one I handed out to you. But we can see them, these symbols around the world throughout history. Then at some point in the 14th, 15th century, there was a renaissance of labyrinths, and you see them etched and laid in tile on the floors of cathedrals throughout Europe as this practice of prayer, of taking one step at a time. And I'm particularly mindful, it's so bright in here, this is a hard picture to see, that I think there's kind of been a modern renaissance of labyrinths in our world, and especially in spiritual places, of labyrinths being built outdoors. I need to grab my water, sorry. Of labyrinths being built outdoors, these places to go and to pray and to be together. There's many in and around Madison, right up the street at the other MCC has one. But the thing about labyrinths is, and let me get to a better picture of one. So as we look at these, or if you look at the one that's in your hand, you can now look at it and you can kind of see the whole picture, but imagine that you're standing at the entrance. It's hard to see how to get to that middle part, kind of like when I was standing on a mountain and looking at the overlook I wanted to get to, but couldn't quite get there, right? But you can't get lost in the labyrinth. So if you begin to walk and you follow the path and you take one step at a time and you just keep going, eventually it will lead you back to that center. Now, you can see the center, you can know what's there, but at some point, that path is going to start taking you away from it. And it's going to bring you back out to that outside loop. And you're going to think, oh, I'm going the wrong way. I don't know where I am. It's getting farther away. What's happening here? And you might start to panic if you don't know what's going on. But if you keep taking and looking in front of you and taking one faithful step forward at a time, you will eventually wind back to the center, to that place. And when you turn right or when you turn to the left, your ears shall hear a word behind you saying, "This is the way, walk in it." So what's at that center? For that, I'm going to move to those other two questions. Why do I give? This is a very simple answer to me. I give because I recognize that what I have has never actually been mine. That from the very beginning, Everything I've been given has come from community, and this has lived out very clearly, specifically in my call to church, that from the beginning of my life, my church was deeply invested in my well-being as a child and as a teenager and as a young adult. They loved and supported and invested in me with time and their talent and their treasures. Plain and simple, that's why I'm here. It's why I give. Why do I serve? I serve because I believe deeply in community. There's a line in the Constitution of the United Church of Christ. You might remember me bringing this up at confirmation the last 2 years. But in our Constitution as a denomination, there's a line that challenges the church in each generation to make this faith our own. Built into the very nature of who we are as the United Church of Christ is this commitment to say that each generation is to take the faith, to take this thing that we do here, and to make it our own, to make it relevant, to make it meaningful, to make it impactful in the world that we live in. Now, with every generation that passes lately, I think that this becomes more important. The UCC came together, very short history lesson, in the 50s when Christian churches were at the center of American culture, right? They had wealth, they had voice, they had social power. And with each generation, this has become less and less true. My longest and closest friends, those ones that I hiked a mountain with, are not churchgoers. Doesn't even cross their mind on Sunday mornings, right? It's not a part of their lives. My spouse had been to church just a handful of times before we met. You can apologize to him later. In this generation and in coming generations, the church offers something that is becoming even more completely countercultural, particularly in highly educated and independent communities, such as the one where we are. The church offers a chance to be community, a place of growth, a place of support and love, of care and concern. It offers belonging. Recent reports suggest that 36% of Americans, including 61% of young adults, 61% of young adults, and 51% of mothers with young children. Okay? 61% of all young adults and 51% of mothers with young children feel serious loneliness in the United States. Over half of young adults in our country are lonely. And I have never felt that. And here we are, together, week after week, telling stories about a God who says over and over and over again, "Do not be afraid, for I am with you. Do not be afraid, for I am with you." And about a teacher who over and over and over again called people of every kind around tables, where their social boundaries fell away with the breaking of bread. I serve because this is a place of belonging. And I am passionate about making more room here in our lives, in our community. And that's why I serve. And it's why I give. And it's why I am excited about every next faithful step that we will take together in this place and in this world. Amen. Just a few announcements about the life and steps of the church today. So a reminder that we have Healing House meals coming up on December 3rd. I checked the sheet before worship, and I think we just need one more volunteer, if I looked at it correctly. So if you are willing to help contribute to a meal for Healing House on December 3rd, there's a sign-up sheet on the first table in Fellowship Hall, or you can talk to Ross Michaels if you have any questions. Just Bakery is with us in fellowship today. If you want to buy any baked goods, go quick because they sell out pretty quickly. So just so you know, they are here after worship. A reminder that Christmas Eve is coming, whether you want it to or not. I am very excited about it. And the choir will begin rehearsing for Christmas Eve services this Wednesday night. So it's often a great time. If you don't sing with the choir all year round, you are welcome to join just for Christmas. For the 7:30 service on Christmas, the choir will be singing. So come to choir rehearsal or talk to Deb if you have more questions. And that also welcomes high schoolers if they would like to join the choir for this season. If you have a middle schooler who's interested, talk to Deb first. And then today, Adult Sunday School. Rich Pliva and some of our representatives from Awaken Dane will be leading Sunday school today, conveniently asking the question, who is our neighbor? And I bet they have answers. So please plan on joining them. If you haven't heard of Awaken Dane or you have heard of Awaken Dane and you're wondering what it is, know that we're a part of it, and you should want to learn more. And that would be a great place to start. So grab your food, buy your baked goods from Just Bakery, and then head to the gathering room for Adult Sunday School. And then a final reminder that next Sunday after worship, we'll have a nominations meeting, a congregational meeting after worship. It's usually a pretty short meeting, but plan on being here and sticking around so that we can elect our boards and officers for the next year. All right, let's stand. And thank you to everyone who continues to give and financially support the church. You can do that. There are boxes right outside the back doors where you could drop off offering this morning, or go to middletonucc.org and find the yellow donate button. Let's stand and sing together. And now, my friends, I invite you to turn one more time toward these doors that I remind you are not an exit, but an entrance, a chance to take one more faithful step in a life of service. As you go from this place, may God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may God look upon you with kindness and give you peace today and every day. Amen.